Crash landing on Kepler 442 bits. Captain Sarah Chen felt the deck plates buckle beneath her feet as another explosion rocked the mining vessel Terra's Hammer. The asteroid field that should have been a routine harvesting operation had turned into a nightmare when they discovered it wasn't empty. Something had been watching them from the shadows between the rocks. Hull breach on Deck 3. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez shouted over the screaming alarms. His weathered face was streaked with sweat and determination as he fought to seal emergency bulkheads. "We're losing atmosphere fast, Captain." Sarah gripped the command chair as the ship lurched violently to starboard. Through the viewport, she could see sleek black vessels darting between the asteroids like angry wasps. Their weapons left trails of crackling energy that tore through the Terra's Hammer's mining equipment like paper. The attackers moved with precision that spoke of advanced technology and ruthless efficiency. "Dr. Webb, what are we dealing with?" Sarah called to the ship's xenobiologist, who was frantically analyzing the alien vessels on his scanner. Dr. Marcus Webb pushed his glasses up his nose with a shaking hand. "I've never seen anything like them in the databases, Captain. The ship design suggests insectoid intelligence, highly aggressive behavior patterns. They're not responding to any of our communication attempts." Another impact sent sparks cascading from the overhead panels. Sarah made a decision that went against every instinct she had developed in her 20 years of space service. Instead of fighting back, she was going to run. But not away from the asteroid field. Toward the one place these attackers might not follow. "Rodriguez, prepare for emergency landing procedures," she ordered. The security chief looked at her like she had lost her mind. "Captain, the nearest planet is Kepler 442 bits. The atmospheric readings show it's barely habitable. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, and the surface scans suggest active geological instability, which is exactly why they won't expect us to go there." Sarah replied grimly. "Set course for the planet. Emergency burn on all remaining thrusters." The Terra's Hammer groaned as its damaged engines pushed toward the red-brown planet that hung like a malevolent eye in the void. Behind them, the alien attackers seemed to hesitate. Their pursuit slowed as the human ship entered the planet's gravity well. "They're breaking off," Dr. Webb reported with surprise. "The alien ships are returning to the asteroid field." Sarah nodded. "They know something we don't about that planet. But sometimes the devil you don't know is better than the one trying to kill you." The descent through Kepler 442 bits' atmosphere was brutal. The ship's heat shields were already damaged from the battle, and the thick, turbulent air made control nearly impossible. Sarah had trained for crash landings at the academy, but that had been in simulators with functioning equipment. Now she was piloting a half-destroyed mining vessel through an alien atmosphere by instinct and prayer. "Brace for impact," she shouted as the ground rushed up to meet them. The Terra's Hammer hit the surface and skipped like a stone across water, except the water was jagged rock and crystalline formations that shattered under the ship's mass. They slid for nearly a kilometer before coming to rest in what appeared to be a dried river surrounded by towering purple trees that swayed in the alien wind. The silence after the crash was almost as jarring as the violence that had preceded it. Sarah's ears were ringing, but she could hear the ship's systems shutting down one by one as damaged power conduits finally gave up. She pulled herself from the command chair and began checking on her crew. "Sound off," she called. "Who's still breathing?" "Rodriguez here. Got a concussion, but I'm mobile." Dr. Webb reporting. "Minor cuts and bruises. My equipment took a beating, but the portable scanners are still functional." One by one, the remaining crew members reported in. Of the original complement of 37, 22 had survived the crash. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility for those they had lost, but she pushed the grief aside. The living needed her full attention now. "Damage report," she ordered as the crew gathered in the main cargo bay, one of the few areas still pressurized. The news was not encouraging. Life support was running on backup power that would last maybe 6 hours. The hull had multiple breaches that would need to be sealed before they lost all their atmosphere. The communication array was completely destroyed, meaning no chance of calling for rescue. And worst of all, the main engines were offline with damage that would take weeks to repair, assuming they could find the necessary materials. Dr. Webb was studying readings from his portable scanner, his face growing pale. "Captain, I hate to add to our problems, but the atmosphere outside is barely breathable. High carbon dioxide, low oxygen, and trace amounts of compounds that would be toxic with prolonged exposure. We need to seal the ship and establish a proper life support system, or we'll suffocate long before we can make repairs." Sarah closed her eyes and thought. Her military training kicked in, dividing their situation into manageable problems. First priority was immediate survival: air, water, shelter. Second was medium-term survival: food, power, basic repairs. Third was long-term survival: getting off this rock and back to human space. "All right, people, here's what we're going to do," she announced to the assembled crew. "Rodriguez, take half the remaining security team and scout the immediate area. I want to know what kind of threats we're facing. Environmental, geological, and biological. Stay within radio range and don't engage anything unless it's trying to eat you." The grizzled chief nodded. "Understood, Captain. What about the unknown hostiles? If those black ships wanted us dead, they would have followed us down here. The fact that they didn't suggest this planet is dangerous enough to keep them away. That works in our favor, assuming we're smart enough to survive what scared off advanced aliens." Dr. Webb raised his hand tentatively. "Captain, I'd like to join the scouting party. We need to catalog the local ecosystem if we're going to be here for any length of time. Some of these plant formations might be useful for creating a more sustainable atmosphere mixture." Sarah nodded. "Take your equipment, but stay close to Rodriguez. I don't want our only xenobiologist getting eaten by something we haven't cataloged yet." As the scouting party prepared to leave, Sarah turned her attention to the ship's systems. Her background as a military engineer before becoming a mining captain had given her skills that were about to be put to the ultimate test. She had always believed that any machine could be fixed if you understood its purpose and had enough determination. She crawled through access tunnels and maintenance shafts, assessing damage and cataloging what materials they had to work with. The Terra's hammer had been designed for asteroid mining, which meant it carried fabrication equipment, cutting tools, and a variety of raw materials. If she could get power restored and the fabricators online, they might be able to manufacture replacement parts. The first breakthrough came when she discovered that the auxiliary reactor was intact. It had been automatically shut down during the crash to prevent a catastrophic overload, but the containment systems were still functional. With careful work, she could bring it back online and provide power for essential systems. As Sarah worked, she found herself thinking about the alien attackers. Their technology had been impressive, but not overwhelming. Human ships were built tough because Earth was a dangerous world that had taught humanity to expect the unexpected. The black ships had been fast and maneuverable, but their weapons hadn't seemed significantly more powerful than human military-grade equipment. What bothered her was their behavior. The attack had been sudden and coordinated, but they had broken off as soon as the Terra's hammer headed for the planet. That suggested they were either afraid of something on Kepler 442 bits, or they knew something about the planet that made pursuing a damaged ship not worth the risk. Her contemplation was interrupted by Rodriguez's voice crackling over the radio. "Captain, you need to see this. We're about 2 clicks north of the ship. Found something big." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. "Define big, Chief." "It's another ship, Captain, but not like ours, and not like those black things that attacked us. This one's been here a while. Looks like it crashed same as us, but maybe years ago." Dr. Webb's excited voice joined the conversation. "Captain, the design is unlike anything in our databases. The materials are partially crystalline, partially metallic, and there are energy readings coming from inside the wreckage." Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "Hold your position. I'm coming to you." She grabbed a portable scanner and emergency kit, then made her way through the ship's corridors to the main airlock. The atmospheric readings showed the air outside was barely breathable, but her suit's filters could handle the contamination for a few hours. The landscape of Kepler 442 bits was alien in ways that made her skin crawl. The purple trees moved without wind, their branches reaching toward her as she passed. The ground was covered in crystalline formations that hummed with some kind of internal energy. In the distance, she could see strange creatures that looked like a cross between birds and jellyfish, floating through the thick air. The crashed ship that Rodriguez had found was enormous. It dwarfed the Terra's Hammer, stretching nearly half a kilometer from bow to stern. The hull was a seamless blend of crystal and metal that seemed to shift colors in the alien sunlight. Parts of it had been buried by years of sediment, but enough remained visible to show its alien origin. Any signs of survivors? Sarah asked as she approached her team. Dr. Webb shook his head. Negative, but Captain, look at this. He led her to a section of the hull where the metal had been torn away, revealing the ship's interior. The damage patterns suggest this ship was attacked by the same type of weapons that hit us, and based on the deterioration, I'd estimate it crashed here about 5 years ago. Sarah studied the opening in the alien hull. Inside, she could see corridors that curved in impossible directions and surfaces that glowed with their own light. Her engineer's mind was already working, wondering what kind of technology could create such effects. The energy readings are strongest near what appears to be the engine section. Dr. Webb continued. If this ship used some form of exotic matter propulsion, there might still be active components. Rodriguez looked nervous. Captain, maybe we should focus on fixing our own ship before we go exploring alien wrecks. For all we know, whatever killed the original crew is still in there. Sarah understood his concern, but she also understood opportunity. Dr. Webb, what are the chances that this ship's technology could help us repair the Terra's Hammer? The xenobiologist's eyes lit up with excitement. If we could understand their power systems, their materials science, their propulsion technology, Captain, we might not just be able to get home. We might revolutionize human spaceflight. That settled it. Sarah had always believed that the biggest risks led to the biggest rewards. And right now, stuck on an alien world with limited options, a big risk might be their only chance for survival. All right, people. We're going to explore this ship, but we do it smart, and we do it careful. Rodriguez, I want security protocols in place. Dr. Webb, document everything. And everyone stays together. If we're going to die on this rock, at least we'll learn something useful first. As they entered the alien vessel, Sarah had no idea that her decision would ultimately change the course of human history. Sometimes the most important moments in a person's life look like ordinary choices at the time. The interior of the alien ship was a maze of curved passages and chambers, filled with technology that defied human understanding. But Sarah Chen had spent her life figuring out how things worked, and she wasn't about to stop now. The Impossible Alliance. 3 days after entering the alien vessel, Sarah Chen had barely slept. Her hands were stained with strange crystalline residue from handling the alien technology, but her eyes burned with the excitement of discovery. The ship belonged to a species that Dr. Webb had dubbed the Etherians, based on translations of their flowing script that seemed to dance across the vessel's surfaces. Captain, you need to see this. Dr. Webb called from what they had determined was the ship's engineering section. His voice carried a mixture of awe and terror that made Sarah's blood run cold. She found him standing before a massive holographic display that showed star maps unlike anything in human databases. Red markers indicated dozens of worlds, with connecting lines showing fleet movements and tactical information. It's a war map, Dr. Webb whispered. The Etherians weren't just passing through this system. They were fleeing. And those black ships that attacked us, they're called the Vex. According to this data, they'd been systematically destroying every intelligent species they encounter. Sarah studied the display, her military training helping her interpret the tactical information. The picture it painted was grim. The Vex weren't just aggressive. They were genocidal. World after world showed the same pattern. Initial contact, brief resistance, then complete extinction. How many species have they wiped out? She asked. Based on this data, at least 43 confirmed civilizations. The Etherians were one of the last major powers capable of fighting back. Dr. Webb manipulated the display, showing recent battle reports. Their final fleet was destroyed 6 months ago. This ship was carrying the survivors and their most advanced technology. Rodriguez, who had been standing guard at the entrance, stepped forward. Captain, if these Vex are still out there hunting for survivors, they're going to come back here eventually. We need to get our ship repaired and get the hell out of this system. Sarah nodded, but her attention was drawn to another section of the display. It showed technical specifications for Etherian technology, power systems that could bend space-time, weapons that could disrupt matter at the quantum level, and most importantly, manufacturing systems that could create any needed component from basic atomic materials. Dr. Webb, is any of this technology still functional? The xenobiologist led her deeper into the ship's engineering section, where crystalline structures pulsed with inner light. The power core is still active, but barely. I think it's been running on automatic systems, maintaining minimal life support for any potential survivors. But Captain, there's something else. He brought her to a chamber they hadn't explored before. Inside, suspended in some kind of stasis field, were 3 Etherian beings. They were tall and graceful, with elongated limbs and faces that seemed to be carved from living crystal. Their eyes were closed, but Sarah could see the slow rise and fall of breathing. They're alive, she breathed. The stasis system has been keeping them in suspended animation, probably waiting for rescue that never came. According to the ship's logs, these are the last members of the Etherian High Council, their greatest scientists and military leaders. Sarah felt the weight of decision pressing down on her. These beings represented the last hope of a dying civilization, and their technology might be humanity's only chance of surviving the Vex threat. But reviving them was a risk that could go horribly wrong. Can we wake them up safely? Dr. Webb nodded slowly. I think so. I've been studying their medical systems. The process seems straightforward. But Captain, we don't know how they'll react to finding humans aboard their ship. Only one way to find out. Sarah activated her comm unit. Rodriguez, bring a full security team to engineering. And get word to the Terra's Hammer. I want all essential personnel ready for emergency evacuation if this goes sideways. The revival process took nearly an hour. Sarah watched nervously as the stasis field slowly dissolved, and the 3 Etherians began to stir. The first to fully awaken was a being whose crystal-like skin had a golden hue. Its eyes opened and immediately focused on Sarah with an intelligence that seemed ancient and profound. When it spoke, the words came out as musical tones that the ship's translation system converted to accented English. I am Council Leader Zephyr of the Etherian Unity. You are not Vex. No, Sarah replied carefully. We're humans. Our ship was attacked by the Vex and crashed on this planet. We found your vessel and have been trying to understand your technology. The other 2 Etherians were awakening now, one with silvery skin who introduced herself as Science Director Lyra, and another with deep blue coloring who was apparently Military Commander Nexus. They listened as Sarah explained the situation, their expressions growing more serious with each detail. The war continues, Commander Nexus said grimly. We had hoped that our sacrifice would allow the evacuation fleets to reach the outer rim worlds. How long have we been in stasis? According to your ship's chronometer, approximately 5 years, Dr. Webb answered. The 3 Etherians exchanged glances that somehow conveyed volumes of communication. Finally, Council Leader Zephyr spoke again. Then it is likely that we are the last of our kind. The Vex have had years to complete their extermination campaign. Sarah felt compelled to offer hope. Maybe not. The galaxy is a big place. There could be other survivors, other species fighting back. Science Director Lyra accessed a nearby control panel, her long fingers dancing across crystalline interfaces. Our long-range sensors are detecting increased VEX activity throughout this sector. They appear to be conducting systematic sweeps, searching for something. Searching for what? Rodriguez asked. Us, Commander Nexus replied. And now, by association, you. The VEX do not leave loose ends. They will eventually return to this world to verify that no survivors remain. Sarah's mind was racing through possibilities. How long do we have? Based on their previous patterns, perhaps 2 weeks before they return with a full extermination fleet, Lyra calculated. 2 weeks to repair the Terra's hammer and escape, or find another solution. Sarah looked around at the alien technology that surrounded them. Machines capable of miracles if only she could understand them. Council Leader Zephyr, I have a proposition. Our ship needs repairs that we can't make with our current technology. Your ship has the manufacturing capabilities we need, but it's too damaged to fly. What if we work together? The Etherians conferred in their musical language before Zephyr responded. You would trust us with your vessel's specifications, your technology. If it means survival for both our species, yes. What followed was the most intensive engineering project of Sarah's career. Working with Science Director Lyra, she began the delicate process of integrating human and Etherian technology. The differences were vast. Humans built things tough and simple, designed to withstand abuse and keep working under adverse conditions. Etherians built things elegant and complex, achieving incredible efficiency through precise harmony of components. The breakthrough came when Sarah realized that the two approaches weren't incompatible, they were complementary. Human engineering could provide the robust foundation that Etherian technology needed to reach its full potential, while Etherian science could enhance human systems beyond anything previously imagined. Your species has an interesting approach to problem solving, Lyra observed as they worked together to redesign the Terra's hammer's power systems. Where we would calculate the optimal solution, you experiment until you find something that works. Sarah grinned as she welded a human power coupling to an Etherian energy regulator. We call it thinking outside the box. Sometimes the best solution isn't the most elegant one. The modifications they were making were revolutionary. The Terra's hammer's engines were being upgraded to use Etherian space-folding technology, but with human-designed backup systems that could function even if the exotic matter containment failed. The hull was being reinforced with Etherian crystalline armor that could self-repair, but the underlying structure remained good old-fashioned human steel. Commander Nexus was working with Rodriguez to upgrade the ship's weapon systems. Your kinetic projectile weapons are crude but effective, he admitted. Combined with our quantum disruption technology, they should be quite formidable. As the modifications neared completion, Dr. Webb made a disturbing discovery. Captain, I've been monitoring long-range sensors. We've got company coming. The display showed multiple contacts approaching the system at high speed. The signatures were unmistakably Vex, a full battle fleet complete with the massive dreadnoughts that had destroyed the last Etherian strongholds. How many? Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. 47 ships, including 3 super dreadnoughts. They'll be here in 18 hours. Council Leader Zephyr studied the tactical display with ancient eyes. A fleet of that size could sterilize the entire planet. They are not taking any chances. Sarah felt the familiar calm that came over her in crisis situations. Then we don't run. We fight. Rodriguez stared at her in disbelief. Captain, we're talking about one modified mining ship against a fleet of warships. That's not bravery. That's suicide. Maybe, Sarah admitted. But if we run, they'll just hunt us down eventually. And there might be other survivors out there. Human colonies, Etherian refugees, members of species we haven't met yet. Someone needs to prove that the Vex can be beaten. The final 18 hours were a blur of activity. Every human crew member and all 3 Etherians worked around the clock to complete the modifications. The Terra's hammer was transformed from a simple mining vessel into something unprecedented. a hybrid ship that combined the best of two very different technological philosophies. When the Vex fleet arrived, they found something they hadn't expected. Instead of a damaged refugee ship hiding on a hostile planet, they faced a vessel that defied all their tactical calculations. The battle began as the Vex expected. Their lead ships entered orbit and began the standard bombardment pattern designed to eliminate any survivors on the planet's surface. But the Terra's hammer wasn't on the surface anymore. Sarah had used the Etherian space-folding technology in a way its creators had never imagined. Instead of folding space to travel faster than light, she used it to hide the ship inside a pocket dimension, invisible to sensors, but able to observe and strike at will. "Target the lead dreadnought," she ordered. "All weapons, full spread." The Terra's hammer emerged from its dimensional pocket directly behind the Vex flagship. Human-designed railguns fired projectiles enhanced with Etherian quantum disruption technology. The effect was devastating. The massive dreadnought's shields collapsed and its hull began to break apart at the molecular level. Before the Vex could react, the Terra's hammer vanished back into its pocket dimension. "Impossible," Commander Nexus whispered. "In all our years of fighting the Vex, we never achieved such decisive results." "That's because you were fighting them on their terms," Sarah replied. "We're changing the rules." The battle continued for 6 hours. The Terra's hammer struck again and again from impossible angles, using hit-and-run tactics that the Vex had never encountered. Each attack was precisely calculated to cause maximum damage while minimizing risk. But Sarah's masterstroke came when she realized that the Vex fleet was controlled by a central command ship that coordinated all their actions. Instead of trying to destroy the entire fleet, she focused everything on that single target. The final attack was launched from within the Vex formation itself. The Terra's hammer emerged from dimensional fold space directly inside the command ship's bridge. The close-range weapons barrage destroyed the vessel's control systems and killed its commanding intelligence. Without central coordination, the Vex fleet began firing on each other, their simple artificial intelligences unable to distinguish friend from foe in the chaos. Within an hour, the entire enemy fleet had been destroyed by their own confusion. In the aftermath, as debris from 47 Vex warships drifted in the void around Kepler 442 bits, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her transformed ship and looked out at the stars. Beside her, Council Leader Zephyr observed the destruction with something that might have been satisfaction. "You have done something remarkable, Captain Chen. Not just the victory, but the method. You have shown that cooperation between species can achieve what isolation cannot." Sarah nodded. "The Vex succeeded because they divided us. Every species tried to fight them alone. But together, we're stronger than the sum of our parts." Dr. Webb was already planning their next move. "Captain, if we can spread this technology, share what we've learned with other surviving civilizations, we could turn the tide of this war," Sarah finished. "Not just survive, but win." The journey back to human space took weeks, but it was time well spent. Sarah and the Etherians refined their hybrid technology, creating manufacturing templates that could be shared with other species. When they finally reached Earth, they carried with them the blueprint for a new kind of alliance. The initial reaction from Earth Command was skepticism. The idea that a mining captain had single-handedly defeated a Vex fleet seemed impossible. But the evidence was undeniable. Not just the wreckage of enemy ships, but the revolutionary technology that Sarah and her allies had created. Within months, the hybrid human-Etherian designs were being incorporated into every ship in the human fleet. Other surviving species were contacted and invited to contribute their own technological innovations. The Galactic Liberation Alliance was born from the ashes of defeat, united by the principle that had saved Sarah's crew. Cooperation was stronger than conflict. The war with the Vex continued for 3 more years, but it was a very different war. Instead of isolated civilizations falling one by one, the galaxy now presented a united front. Human ingenuity, Etherian science, and the unique contributions of dozens of other species combined to create weapons and strategies that the Vex couldn't counter. The final battle took place in the Vex home system, where their ancient hive mind had controlled the galaxy-spanning genocide for centuries. Sarah Chen commanded the flagship of the Liberation Fleet, a massive vessel that incorporated the best technology from 50 different species. When the Vex hive mind was finally destroyed, the artificial intelligences that had carried out its orders simply shut down. Across the galaxy, Vex ships went dark and drifted powerless through space. Peace came not with a surrender, but with silence. In the years that followed, Sarah often reflected on a crash landing that had changed everything. A routine mining mission had become first contact, first cooperation, and ultimately the salvation of galactic civilization. She had proven that humans brought something unique to the cosmic community, not just determination or resilience, but the ability to see possibilities where others saw only problems. The death world that had forged humanity had taught them that survival often required thinking differently, taking risks that others wouldn't consider. As she stood on the observation deck of the New Terra station, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the massive space facility, Sarah smiled. The galaxy was no longer a place where civilizations fought alone against the dark. It was a place where different minds could come together and build something greater than any of them could achieve alone. And sometimes that made all the difference.